Hi guys, I am Muchekwa and I am back again with Maths XYZ, and today I will be taking you through solving trigonometry in Cartesian plane. This is the Cartesian plane that I've already drawn, which starts from 0 degrees up until 360 degrees on the very same axis. This is positive x and this is positive y, negative x and negative 1. This is our origin, which is 0 is to 0. Then from this Cartesian plane, I want you to understand that theta is positive when it's being measured anti-clockwise. Theta, when I'm measuring it anti-clockwise, it becomes positive. But then if I am measuring theta clockwise, it's negative. Like from here up to there, theta, it's negative. It's negative when it's being measured clockwise, and it's positive when it's being measured anti-clockwise. Then from here, I also want us to learn about the trigonometric ratio. At which quadrant are they positive and at which quadrant are they negative? This is from this Cartesian plane. This is the first quadrant, the second quadrant up until the fourth quadrant. And from the first quadrant, all trigonometric ratios are positive in the first quadrant. The first quadrant, which is between 0 degrees and 90 degrees. Then the second quadrant, which is between 90 degrees and 180 degrees, only sign is positive in this quadrant. Only sign. Then the third quadrant, which is between 180 degrees and 270, only tan is positive in this quadrant, which is the third quadrant. The fourth quadrant and also the last, it's between 270 degrees and 360 degrees. And in this quadrant, only cos it's positive in this quadrant. Then from here, we can, I have a statement that will make you guys memorize about this one, of which, if starting from the first quadrant going anti-clockwise, it says all students take care, which is from the first quadrant all the way to the fourth quadrant. Then this is the statement: all students take care. This is when you are looking at it from the first quadrant and going anti-clockwise. Then it says all students take care. By just using this statement, it will make it easy for you to remember that all is for the first quadrant. The student, which is we only focusing on the letter S. We know that the second quadrant is for the trigonometric ratio, which start with a letter S, of which that is sine. And then T, which is for take care, it stands for tan, which is for the third quadrant, and the fourth quadrant is C, which is for cos. All right, and then another thing that you can use to memorize the Cartesian plane is to use the word cast. Cast is when you are starting from the fourth quadrant going anti-clockwise again. Then it starts with a C, which is for cos, and then A for all, S for sine, and then T for tan. This is when you are starting from the fourth quadrant going anti-clockwise to the third quadrant. And then this one is when you are starting from the first quadrant going anti-clockwise still up until to the fourth quadrant. All right, let's look at this. Let's look at one example of which we will see how this thing works. Let's look at a question of sine theta. If sine theta is less than 0, and the condition is that theta must be an element of 90 degrees and 270 degrees. Then it says if sine theta is less than 0, and theta is the element of 90 degrees and 270 degrees. This is the condition that we are given. And then it says at what quadrant does sine theta less than 0 lies? All right, let's just draw a Cartesian plane, which is this one. Remember, this is 0 degrees, this is 90 degrees, this is 180 degrees, this is 270, and again this is 360. On the very same axis with the 0 degrees. Then from here, we know that the place where sine theta is less than 0, that means that it's negative at that quadrant. It's only here and there. Remember that in the first quadrant, all of them, they are positive. That will make sine theta to be greater than 0 because it will be positive. In the second quadrant, remember in the second quadrant, only sine is positive. That will make it greater than 0 because it will be positive. But then on the third quadrant, only tan is positive, which will make theta sine to be negative. And also in the fourth quadrant, cos only it's positive, which will make all sine and tan to be negative. Then we know that sine theta less than 0, it's only in the third and the fourth quadrant, of which I've already placed the tick there. Then let's come to the condition which says, and then theta is the element of 90 degrees and 270 degrees. Then that means that it can either be from 90 degrees, this condition, in this quadrant or the third quadrant. Because remember that if we bring it to this quadrant, it will already be at a 360 degrees. That means my first tick is there because theta is the element of 90 degrees. Then this is between 90 and 180. And then another element is 270, of which this is 270. It stops there, starting at 90, ending up at 270. Then this is 270, my tick is here. Then that means sine theta less than 0, it lies on the third quadrant, which is with the condition that theta is the element of 90 degrees and 270 degrees. I hope you guys understood this. Let's just do another example so that you can just have a clear view of the solving trigonometric ratio in using a Cartesian plane. Alright guys, another example. Let me just make space here. Okay, the question says cos theta, if cos theta is greater than 0 and tan theta is less than 0. And the question says we must show at which quadrant does the terminal lie. Then remember, the first thing to do is to draw the Cartesian plane and put the theta, the angles there. This one is 0 degrees, 90, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, and again let me just put 0 on the top, 0 degrees, and this one at the bottom, 360 degrees. Then let's look at this one, cos theta greater than 0. Remember that at the first quadrant, all trigonometric ratios, they are positive on the first quadrant. That means also cos theta greater than 0, it is in the first quadrant. Then at the second quadrant, cos theta greater than 0, it can be, because only sine is positive in the second quadrant. That means that this one is already out. Even the third quadrant, we know only tan is positive here. Then in the last quadrant, of which cos is positive, it's a tick. Then let's look at tan theta less than 0. Tan theta is only less than 0 in the second quadrant, in the third quadrant, and also in the fourth quadrant, because in the first quadrant all trigonometric ratios are positive. Then our answer is in the quadrant of which the two ticks lie, of which this is the fourth quadrant. Where there are 4 ticks, then our answer is in that quadrant. Then that means that the question for this, the terminal is at the fourth quadrant because we have 2 ticks there. Alright guys, I hope you understood this one. Let's do another example on this. Another example, it says if tan theta is less than 0, and the condition, it says theta is the element of 180 and 360 degrees. Alright, the first thing that you must do is to draw the Cartesian plane. Remember, 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, and 360 degrees. Then let's look at which quadrant is tan theta less than 0. Tan theta is less than 0 in the second quadrant and also in the fourth quadrant. Then it says theta, theta must be an element, sorry, this is theta. Theta must be an element of 180 and 360 degrees. Then it cannot be this quadrant because this is between 90 and 180 degrees. But then between this one too, it could be, it is there between 180 and 270 degrees, and also it is here between 270 and 360 degrees, because it is still within one between 180 and 360. This is 180, that's why we have a tick there. This is still between these two. Then the last one is start from here and it ends there. Then this is the third quadrant of which we have a tick, and this is the fourth quadrant of which we have a tick. But remember, our answer is only where the two ticks lie, of which for this case it is the fourth quadrant. It is the fourth quadrant. That means that the terminal lies in the fourth quadrant. Alright, I hope already you guys are understanding the method on how we are solving the question on Cartesian plane. Alright, let's look at another example of which it says tan theta is greater than 0, and sine theta is greater than 0. Then you remember the first thing you do is to draw the Cartesian plane, and then this is 0 degrees, this is 90 degrees, this is 180 degrees, this is 270 degrees, this is 360 degrees. Then let's look at tan theta is greater than 0. Tan theta is greater than 0 in the first quadrant, not in the second quadrant, because only sine is positive here. In the third quadrant, yes, because tan is positive in the third quadrant. In the fourth quadrant, no. Then let's look at sine theta is greater than 0. Sine theta is greater than 0 in the first quadrant, in the second quadrant, and not in the third and the last quadrant. Then where's our answer? Our answer is in the first quadrant because it has two ticks. Then that means that our terminal lie in the first quadrant, because tan theta is greater than 0 in the first quadrant, and also sine theta is greater than 0 in the first quadrant. I hope you guys understood what we were doing here. Just a quick recap, guys. When you are dealing with trigonometric ratio in a Cartesian plane, remember just to draw your Cartesian plane down, and know that if you are measuring an angle in an anti-clockwise direction, that means that the angle is positive. But if you measure the angle in a clockwise direction, that means that angle is negative. Then also remember about all student take care, of which about all student take care is start from the first quadrant going anti-clockwise into the fourth quadrant. But if you use cast, then you start from the fourth